Hi everyone, welcome back to another sewing tutorial. I am so excited for this tutorial because you'll be learning how I made this mermaid dress with a standing sleeve for a bride. This is the dress on the bride and it looks so beautiful. The fitting is amazing. Ooh. Also, you notice that the bride decided to wear the sleeve in a different way, which is absolutely fine. I like this style too. You can style the sleeve whichever way you want it. For those that already subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. If you have not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button right now, and don't forget to hit on the notification bell so you get notified when I upload more tutorial in the future. So I'll start by placing my pattern on my fabric. This pattern is from my previous tutorial on how to draft a basic bodice pattern. Guys, you need to go watch that video because this pattern helped me get a nice fitting around the bodice. Then the next thing I'll do is to come to this line right there, which is my dart, and notch it at the waist so I know where my dart will be when I'm sewing. So you notch your dart at the waist on both sides of your pattern. Also, my pattern is on fold before cutting it out. So this is what I'm saying. When I open it up, you see how it opened up to like a wider size. It's because I folded my fabric, placed my pattern on it, and cut it out. Okay. Then we'll move to the back pattern. I'll go ahead and notch the midpoint of my dart after cutting out the back pattern. Then we'll move to the skirt part of the dress. My half length is 18 inches, right? But I'll start by placing the tape on 17 and a half right here, and this means I subtracted half of an inch from my skirt, and I'll be using that to join the skirt to the upper part of the dress. Okay, now I'll mark my hip length, which is 26 and a half, and where this skirt will stop, so it's gonna stop above my knee, which is 39 and a half inches. Okay, then I'll create a straight line with that. So just pay attention to what I'm doing. Start by just subtracting half of an inch from the length of your skirt, mark your hip line, and mark the length of where this part of the skirt stop. Okay, then the next thing that I'll do is here on my hip line, so I'm touching my hip line and the skirt length. So this is my hip line right here. I'll go ahead and place my hip measurement divided by 4, and you mark that. Then I'll add 1.5 inches sewing allowance to that. Then whatever I have there, I'll just measure it right here. So whatever I have here with the allowance, I'll subtract 2 inches from that and place it at the bottom part of the skirt. Okay, subtract 2 inches from it and place it at the bottom part of the skirt. I'll come to my waist and input my waist measurement. Waist measurement divided by 4. I'll go ahead and mark that right there. Add 1.5 inches sewing allowance, and for the waist you need to add your dart allowance. Okay, and I'll add additional 1.5 inches dart allowance to that. So you connect from your waist to your hip and down to the bottom part of the skirt. Okay, so go ahead and pay attention to that. So I'm connecting from the waist to hip, and you also connect from that point down. Okay, so you connect it down like that. Then I'll come to my waist area right here to create my dart. From the middle, I'll go in by 4.5 inches. I'm using 4.5 inches for this dart. Then I'll mark my 4.5 inches right there. Now I'll mark 3/4 of an inch on both sides of that 4.5 inches. Okay, 3/4 of an inch on both sides like that. Then for my dart length, I like to extend my dart to my hip area, so I'll just go 1 inch above my hip line. Okay, so 1 inch above my hip line, and I'll also mark my 4.5 inches dart measurement there, just to create a straight line with the one that we have at the waist. So just connect that together, and now you connect from that point to the 1/4 of an inch on the right side and the 1/4 of an inch on the left side of your dart. I hope you guys understand. I hope I am not confusing you guys. So you see our dart is 1.5 inches. We already replaced that. So the next thing is to go ahead and cut out this pattern. So I'll cut the side and I'll notch the midpoint of my dart right there. You see, I notch the midpoint so I can know where my dart will be. The next thing now is to place the front pattern on the back pattern to cut it out. Now, the difference is I have 1.5 inches for my zipper allowance at the back, and the front pattern starts from that 1.5 inches, okay? So you have 1.5 inches extra for the back, and that's your zipper allowance, okay? Now what I'll do is I want to reduce my back zipper allowance. We did this for the front pattern if you watch my tutorial on how to draft your basic bodice pattern. So reduce it by 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch, and this will help your zipper lay flat, okay? So I'll reduce by 3/4 inch. To show you what I'm talking about, when I was drafting the upper part of my dress, I reduced the zipper area too. So I'm doing the same thing for the zipper area for the skirt, okay? So you connect that point to your hip area by slanting it down like this. You see what I'm doing right there? So this is what you will have after doing that. Then you can go ahead and trim that off. Just pay attention to the way I'm trimming this off. Then I'll open up the back piece like this. Guys, I'm just working on the back pattern right here. Don't touch the front pattern, okay? We're doing this to just the back pattern. So now I'll come to the waist area right here and notch my dart for the back. So exactly where you have the front dart, you notch it again for the back dart, okay? So now I'll go ahead and take out my back and front so you can see. This is what we have. Now coming back to the upper part of our dress, so I have my front pattern and back pattern, and I'm placing it right side together at the shoulder, and I'll do the same thing for the other side, right side together at the shoulder. And now you go ahead and sew with 1/2 inch at the shoulder, and you also do the same thing for your lining. I cut my lining the exact way that I cut my fabric, okay? Just use the pattern that you use for your fabric to cut your lining out. And you also go ahead and sew this 1/2 inch together at the shoulder. So after doing this, you place your lining and fabric together. Now, the right side of your lining will be facing the right side of your fabric, and I am just arranging my fabric here. So you start sewing with 1/2 inch at the neckline all the way around. After doing that, you sew from your armhole all the way round, then you sew the side too, okay? And you do the same thing for the other side, armhole all the way around, and you sew the side. And after doing that, you also sew your zipper part with 1/2 inch. So this is what I have after sewing. I am notching around my neckline to help that relax properly, and I'll just notch all the way around this part. After notching my neckline, I'll go ahead and put my hand in between the lining and the fabric to pull the fabric to the right side, okay? After turning out my fabric, this is what I have, and go ahead and give this a good press. And this is the back, so we have a neat finishing around the neckline, the armhole, and the side of our dress. So we'll move to the skirt part of our dress. So I place my lining and fabric right side facing each other, and I sew with 1/2 inch on both sides all the way down, okay? And I did the same thing for the rest of the skirt piece. Place your lining and fabric together and sew with 1/2 inch on both sides. And you do the same thing for the front too. So this is the front. Those were the back piece. Place your lining and fabric together and sew at the side. Sew on both sides with 1/2 inch all the way down. So after doing this, the next thing now is to turn your fabric to the right side like we did for the upper part. So after turning this to the right side, we'll go ahead and sew our dart. So this is why it's important for you to notch your dart so you know where you'll be sewing. So that part that we notched earlier, you fold that into two like this, You guys already know how to sew your dart if you've been watching my video for a while. Then you sew with 3/4 of an inch all the way to 8 inches. We use 3/4 of an inch for our dart, and I said the length of my dart will be 8 inches if you remember when we were drafting the skirt pattern. Do the same thing for the other side. Fold like that, 3/4 of an inch all the way to 8 inches. So you repeat the same thing for the back piece too. From where you notch your dart, you fold it like this and sew with 3/4 of an inch down to 8 inches. So after doing that, this is what your dart would look like. Now at the waist area, I'll fold my fabric into two like this. So this is the waist area at the top, and from the center right there, I'll go down by 1 inch. You can do 1.5 inches, and I'll connect from that point to the side of my skirt. And this is to help me eliminate having folds at the upper part of my skirt. Okay, so this part that I'm working with is the waist area of the skirt. So just connect from the side to that 1 inch and trim that part off. Okay, so just pay attention to what I'm doing. You just trim that off and you have something like this. Now we'll sew the dart for the front bodice. So if you notch your dart the way I show you, you have 2 points on each side for your dart. Okay, so those 2 points, you'll be joining them together. So the first point and the second point, you join it together like this. Okay, and you can go ahead and pin this down. Mark the length of my dart. I am using 6.5 inches. Okay, and from that notch part, you sew to that 6.5 inches. I'm doing the same thing on the other side, putting the two notch parts together, and from that notch point, sew down to 6.5 inches. Now for the back, we have one part that we notch. Okay, you fold that into two right here, and you go ahead and just arrange your fabric properly. And from the midpoint right there where you notch, you go in by 3/4 of an inch and sew down to 6.5 inches. Okay, and after doing that, this is what you have. You see that the dart is really neat. Make sure you give it a good press. And now the front part is ready. So the next thing is to join both the skirt and the bodice together, right side facing each other. So match your dart. Make sure your dart is matching at the waist like that, and you go ahead and sew with 1/2 inch all the way round at the waist. Okay, and after doing that, we'll also get the back piece of the skirt and place that on the back piece of our bodice. So right side will be facing each other. Okay, and also the hip side will go to the armhole side, and the zipper side will go to the center back. Okay, so make sure you match your darts together like I'm doing right here, and you sew with 1/2 inch at the waist area, and you repeat the same thing for the other side of your back bodice. So you place your skirt pattern right side facing each other, hip side goes to the armhole and the other side goes to the center back. Match your darts together at the waist, and you sew that with 1/2 inch all the way round. So once we are done with this is what you have. So place your dress right side facing each other and make sure it matches at the waist, and align everything together up to the hem at the bottom. And I'll sew with 1 inch sewing allowance. My allowance was 1.5 inches when I draft the pattern, but I already hemmed the side with 1/2 inch, so I'm left with 1 inch sewing allowance. So after sewing both sides together, this is what you have. I'll flip it to the back right here, and you see that the back side is still open because that's the part we'll insert our zipper. So now to cut the flare part for the bottom part of this dress, you go ahead and measure whatever you have all the way around the bottom part of your skirt. So I have 43 inches when I measured that, and I'm cutting a 1/2 circle flare for the bottom part of this dress. So you divide your 43 inches by 3.14, and this is to get the radius of your skirt. And after doing that, you have 13.5. Okay, and 13.5 will be your radius. I'll take that 13.5 and add the length of my flare to it, and the length of my flare will be from the knee where my skirt already stopped all the way to the floor, how long I want it to be. So mine will be 31 inches, okay? Then I'll add a 0.5 inches to that. So radius plus the length of the flare plus half of an inch, and the total is 45 inches. Now this 45 inches will help me know the amount of fabric that I need to fold, okay? So that means I'm folding my fabric into two now, right? And I have to make sure that now that I folded it into two, I have 45 inches, okay? You measure that and make sure you have 45 inches. Then I'll go ahead and fold my fabric again to this side. So just watch what I'm doing, like that. And this will help it form like a triangle shape, okay? Now I'll get my radius measurement, which is 13.5, and I'll mark that from the tip down all the way around. So watch what I'm doing. Place your tape from the tip and mark 13 inches all the way down, and keep marking it like this. So keep adjusting your tape all the way round. Then you connect those points together. I will go ahead and take my 45 inches, which is the total measurement that we have. So from the tip right there, you mark your 45 inches all the way down. This is why I said you have to have 45 inches when you fold your fabric, so you can have enough fabric. So you keep marking 45 inches all the way down, like I am doing right here. Then you connect all the points together after marking your 45 inches, like I am doing. Now to confirm the length of my flare, right here I have 31.5 inches, and you remember the length is supposed to be 31 inches and the half inch will be to hem the bottom part. So our calculation was right. Now I'll come to the top part right here. This part is the top, and add half of an inch, and this is to join the flare to the rest of my dress, okay? So add half of an inch around the top part, and then you can cut your pattern out now. Now I'll open this up, and this is what we have. I'll also go ahead and cut my lining for the flare the exact way that I just cut my fabric. So it will be the same shape. Fold your lining the same way you folded your fabric and cut it out. Now after doing that, I will sew my lining and fabric together by placing them right side facing each other, like I am doing right here. And also at the hem, I am just trying to adjust my fabric. Then you sew with half of an inch on the side and half of an inch all the way round the bottom part. This is really long, but you have to keep sewing all the way to the other side. And once you get to that other side, you sew the side too, okay? So now after sewing, this is what I have all the way around at the bottom part, and look at that. Now I want to show you guys something right here. So if you look at the bottom part right here, I top stitched my half of an inch sewing allowance to face my lining, okay? So after sewing around, then I top stitch again. What this will help you achieve is prevent your lining from peeking out at the bottom part, so your fabric will look like this if you top stitch. So now I'll go ahead and just turn everything out to the right side, like I am doing right here. And once you're done, you should have something like this. So we'll go ahead and attach the flare to the bottom part of our dress. Ooh, this is coming out nice. So you start from the side, okay, and right side facing each other. So you pick the side of your flare and attach that to the center back. So you're starting from the center back of your dress, you match it together, and you start joining from that point all the way round. We'll be sewing it with half of an inch to join it together, okay? So keep aligning it all the way to the other end of the dress. If you have any excess, that's fine. You can just split that a little bit to fit, okay? And after sewing, this is what I have. I use my serger to knitting up the rough edges, and everything looks neat and beautiful now. So the next thing now that I'll do is to turn this to the back. Okay, so now for the back, we haven't inserted our zipper, so we need to insert our zipper here. So I'll place both points together like this and make sure that the half length matches at the waist. Okay, and after doing this, I will mark how long I want my zipper to be. So my zipper will stop right there, and for that point you sew down with 1 inch all the way to the bottom part of your dress, and this opening is where you will insert your zipper. Okay, that part that is open. So I'll go ahead and insert my zipper into that. I have a detailed tutorial now to fix your zipper. If you've been watching my video for a while, you should have seen that, so I'll leave the link to that in the description. Now for the sleeve, I want the width of my sleeve to be 40 inches, and my fabric is on fold, so that means I'll be using 20 inches. So I measure the width and I have 20 inches right there, and I'll be using a length of 22 inches for the length of the sleeve. Okay, so I'll go up by 2 inches right here at the side part of my sleeve, and from that 2 inches I curve it up to the top part of my sleeve. Okay, so the width is 20 inches when your fabric is unfold, and the length is 22 inches. Go up by 2 inches from the side and connect it to the top part of the sleeve. Then I'll go ahead and cut through the lines that I just marked. Then I'll also notch the center part of my sleeve at the top right there, so I can know the midpoint of my sleeve. So if I open this up, this is what I would have, and I'll go ahead and cut one more of this, so you need 2 of those. The next thing I did was to iron a stiff paper stay or fusible interfacing to my lining, and that's why it looks white. Just get any kind of stiff interfacing just to help your fabric have some sort of like structure to have it stand. Then I'll use that lining to cut out my main fabric. Okay, so now the next thing is to attach both the lining with the interfacing to your main fabric. So you face it right side facing each other. Okay, so right side of the lining facing the right side of the fabric, and I'm just trying to match everything together at the top and at the bottom. So after doing that, you go ahead and sew with 1/2 inch all the way round. Okay, 1/2 inch all the way around, and I'll get the second fabric and interfacing and do the same thing to those. Now after sewing, this is what I have, and you see that I'll go ahead and trim off my allowance just to reduce it to like 1/4 inch, and this is to help you flip your fabric easily. Okay, so now I left a little bit of opening at the side, and this is to help me turn my fabric out. Okay, so I'll put my hand in that opening, and I will use that to flip this fabric to the right side. Okay, this will be a little bit of a struggle because of the interfacing that we added to the lining, but it's doable. Just take your time and flip it to the other side. Now that I'm done flipping it, this is what I have, and I'll go ahead and hem this part that is rough. Just fold it in a little bit by 1/4 inch and fold the lining the same way too, and you go ahead and do the same thing all the way like that. And after doing that, you top stitch that part that is open. Okay, top stitch it to close it. After closing that, you create a loose stitch all the way around the upper part of your sleeve, and this is to create gathers for that part. We want to gather that part together, so run a loose stitch all the way round, and you see what it looks like. So this is what it looks like after I kind of like did my gathering at the upper part of my sleeve, and it makes it puffy and actually looks nice. Now what I did was to leave a little bit of space, like 5 inches before the end of the sleeve, so I didn't gather it all the way to the end because I realized it was too thick. I won't be able to attach the armhole area. Okay, so now the next thing is to attach the sleeve to the dress. So you attach that by starting from the armhole of your dress. You see that that's the armpit area, and you place one side of the sleeve and you sew all the way round. You see I'm attaching the gathered parts to the armhole area. So you continue sewing all the way round to the other part of the armhole of your dress. Okay, and you sew with 1/2 inch, and you do the same thing for the other side of your sleeve. Get your sleeve and attach it all the way round. Now this is what the sleeve looks like now. This is beautiful. I feel like I can even wear this without styling it up, but I'll just show you guys if you want to style it up and kind of have it standing. You just pleat the sleeve upward like I am doing right here, and you can go ahead and tack it down with your needle and thread just to make it stay in place. Okay, this is all you have to do, and we are done with this dress. This is what the dress looked like, and this is the dress on my mannequin. Whew, this dress is simple and elegant. It is so beautiful. This is it on the bride. She looks so gorgeous. Everything fits perfectly. And that is the end of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If this video has been helpful, make sure you give me a big thumbs up, and don't forget to share with your friends that are also into sewing. And also make sure you hit that subscribe button right now and the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future tutorial. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.